Welcome to the Gen Podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Fred Bennink, a lifelong Hamiltonian, businessman, community servant, and candidate for Ward 12 Councillor in Ancaster and West Flamborough. For 35 years, Fred has called Ancaster home. He built and led Zip Science Limited for 37 years and served as a Hamilton Police Auxiliary Officer and spent more than 5 years on the Hamilton Police Services Board as Vice Chair. A father, grandfather, and man deeply rooted in family, faith, and community service, Fred brings a rare combination of real-world experience and a quiet commitment to honest leadership. In this conversation, we explore what it truly means to serve, from the lessons of building a business and volunteering across countless boards to the challenges of public safety, infrastructure, taxes, and restoring hope in our neighborhoods. We talk about living a life of purpose, the importance of clear priorities, and what better governance can look like when it puts residents first. Fred, thank you for joining me. I'm looking forward to a thoughtful and honest conversation. Good morning, Fred. Thank you so much for being on the Chin podcast. It's been long awaiting. And again, after this interview, a lot of people are going to know about you, Fred. And the viewers are not just in Hamilton, they're beyond Hamilton because we have people living outside of Hamilton that owns properties in Hamilton. And I have never met, for all the viewers, I've never met Fred before, but I certainly have heard a lot of good things about Fred, and he is a lifelong Hamiltonian. Now, again, for the viewers, Fred Bennink is the Ward 12 candidate. He's running for Ward 12 councillor. And for the viewers out there who don't know what Ward 12 is, because we got 15 wards in Hamilton. So just to be very clear, Ward 12 encompasses the historic village core and established neighborhoods of Ancaster, as well as the rural settlements of Copetown, Sheffield, Linden, and Jerseyville. It is home to Redeemer University, the Meadowlands Power Center, the Ancaster Business Park, and the Dundas Valley Conservation areas. Is that correct, Fred?
Yes, that is correct. And
Yep.
it's really good to be with you this morning, Daniel.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Fred. And yes, so in very simple terms, Ward 12 is Ancaster, rural Ancaster, and West Flamborough. So,
Correct.
Fred, so the viewers to get a bit to know more about you. Tell us the story how you and your wife, Arlene, decided to make Ancaster your home 35 years ago. And what has Hamilton meant to you and your family through all the changes you've seen?
Yes. Well, thank you for the question. We raised our children in rural Ancaster, and we lived there for 25 years, and 15 years ago or 14 years ago, I guess, once we were empty nesters, we moved into town. Ancaster has been home for us in terms of sports, in terms of community events. Um, Ancaster has really been a wonderful place to raise our children, and we're thrilled to be here. Clearly, Ancaster is not what it used to be, and we need to bring back some of the things that we've enjoyed in Ancaster. The historic core is not what it used to be, and it needs to have some attention. I think from that perspective, what Ancaster is really missing is somebody to advocate for Ancaster. The rural people, the whole rural area feels they don't feel listened to. They feel left out, and so they need attention as well. Whether it's policing, whether it's roads, and definitely they have strong feelings about the upcoming rain tax.
Yep, absolutely. And taking it a step back, Fred, because when I looked at Bennink.ca, which is your website, and watched all those wonderful videos that you have been posting for your supporters, and I saw family, faith, community, right? And you're absolutely a family person. 3 children, 4 grandchildren. Walk us through what it's been like raising a family here and where you're situated, and what kind of community you want them and all families in Ward 12 to inherit. Of course, yes, you mentioned those concerns, but what are some of those things that future-wise that you would want them to inherit to make this ward much better?
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I've said publicly, I've said privately, I've told folks, and I said this when I delegated to council, is the most important thing that a municipality can provide um, is community safety. The safety of the residents is the absolute most important thing. I'm not sure that we understand that, but for myself, in raising a family, community safety, keeping people safe is absolutely paramount. Once you have people that feel safe, and that's not the case right now, people do not feel safe. We've knocked on, I don't know, almost 8,000 doors now. Um, and the general sense is that people do not feel safe. And we have youth crime now, which is getting worse. We have kids carrying bear spray, um, and and then we have the other crimes, the break and enters, car thefts, um, and so getting people to feel safe is the most important thing. Raising our children. Those years ago, people felt safe. We felt safe. Our children felt safe. Um, and that's really important to bring to bring that back. And that's one of the things I think that council needs to understand.
Now, Fred, certainly the downtown of Hamilton has a lot of things in the news when it comes to it being not safe. And some of those things you outlined, youth violence, where the youths have possession of illegal guns, and lots of drugs, usage in the downtown of Hamilton. Recently, in the city of Burlington, in some of the well, if I were to say wealthier neighborhoods, where there are more break and enters. And when it reaches headlines in the news, it becomes a concern. Now, in I believe last year or the year before, in Ancaster, there were car thefts for some of the luxury cars, etc. And you mentioned break and enters. Now, decades ago, Ancaster was a very beautiful. It still is, but safety is a very big concern right now. Is there any other new things that you're seeing in Ancaster in terms of of being unsafe? I know downtown Hamilton, there's lots, but in Ancaster, what are some other things that you're seeing, Fred?
So we see a lot of break and enters. I experienced a lot of that knocking on doors, and I'm sure I will continue to experience that from people. There's also areas where everybody has cameras. Neighbors are talking to each other, and they're seeing SUVs. They check their camera in the morning, and they see an SUV going very, very slowly up and down the street, checking places out. So they compare their cameras and they all see the same thing. And that's a very scary thing. So you get up in the morning and maybe you look at your camera and you see at 2:30 in the morning, there's somebody either going in your driveway to check on your cars to see if your doors are locked. Um, it's scary for folks, and we need to do something where that doesn't happen. And when we listen to what should I call them? The non-common sense counselors, they want to defund the police. Of course, 5.5 years on the police board, I had experience with some of the counselors, and not all of them, because there is a good share of counselors. um, who think policing is important. There are some who want to defund the police, that they're getting too much money. I was getting calls when I was vice chair from all kinds of businesses, where the councillor wasn't responding to people's safety issues, especially in the core, um, and that needs to change. So, police also have a fiduciary responsibility to act in accordance, uh, to provide safety. And one of the issues is that they are so busy. So, years ago, I was an auxiliary officer. I'd jump in with an officer in the car and open up the MDT, the computer in the car, and there'd be 20 calls waiting. Um, it's just chasing call after call after call. I can tell you during COVID that there was a lot of proactive policing happening, and that proactive policing really, really was beneficial. Um, Unfortunately, that's not the case right now with the number of officers that are on the street. We also have traffic issues, and some folks think that putting speed bumps is the answer for speeding. That, of course, might be sponsored by the local automotive repair shop because front ends of cars are falling off. Actually, regarding speed bumps, the transportation uh, department in the city has said that 67% of the speed bumps in Hamilton are unwarranted. So that's not the answer. So we have to do education. We have to talk to folks. There's new technology now to track. I've done it a couple of times in the last month where we track for 3 days straight, 24 hours a day, um, for several days, to track what the speeding is, what time of the day the speeding happens, and so on and so forth. So from a speeding perspective, which is a big complaint for folks in our rural area as well as in our residential area, Meadowlands, um, it's a huge issue. So we have to deal with the sense of people feeling safe. It's not a matter of being safe, but if you don't feel safe, um, that's that's not what we want.
So two things just to clarify, Fred. One, why would some councillors have the perspective of defunding the police? Because if police, you know, um, is important, is needed, we need, and I see the police, they work very hard. They're on the streets in Hamilton, especially with the homelessness. I believe when you were a auxiliary officer and you saw firsthand all those things happening, you mentioned in the pandemic years, and I believe you also spoke with the homeless, because the homelessness, there was a rise of homeless people in Hamilton. You saw firsthand. Take us through some of those experiences, and it's really good that you were alongside these police officers and you experienced firsthand what was going on the streets. Can you
Yes.
share some of those stories?
Yeah. Well, as an auxiliary, I saw a lot of things, crack houses and speeding, traffic issues, domestic issues. So yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that goes on. In terms of being a board member, I was probably the only board member, probably in the history of the Hamilton Police Service, to visit every frontline squad every single year. So 5:30 in the morning, I'd be at the station visiting, waiting for them to show up for their first morning shift. Um, what happens when the shift starts is the sergeant or staff sergeant takes the officers through what happened in the previous shift and who got arrested and what to watch for, and so on and so forth. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of policing that is required. And if all we do is put out fires as police officers and move on to the next call, that doesn't help the people. So there's an issue when your house gets broken into. There needs to be more than just, okay, call your insurance company and they'll look after you. Um, can we take fingerprints? Can we do all the investigative work for every single break and enter? Well, that's a problem. But these are things that we need to talk about to better educate folks. It's the same with speeding. If you stand in the front window of your house and you see cars going by, it appears they are going much faster than when you're in the car. And if you've ever stood on the side of a highway with a flat tire or something or
Oh,
whatever, if you're on the
dangerous.
not only is it dangerous, Daniel, but it feels like the average speed might be 110 or 115 or something, but it feels like they're doing like 200 kilometers an hour
Oh,
when you're
yes.
standing beside the cars. So
You
there
can
there
feel
is
the
some
you can feel the
education.
wind, Fred. It
Yeah.
passes you.
So I was talking to a superintendent the other day about some of these things, saying, you know, we need to do a better job in terms of education. We need to help people feel safe. So if there's a danger, we need to deal with it. If there's not a danger, we have to help people feel safe. But there are good reasons not to feel safe. When bystanders get shot, even on the mountain,
Oh,
um,
oh,
or when a pickup truck backs into Ancaster Jewelers, um,
yes.
and robs Ancaster Jewelers, like
Two times.
my ex 2 times.
Mhm.
My expectation is that there is a police officer there within, like, 20 seconds, and I won't go into the details about how many police cars we have covering Ward 12, which is, the Meadowlands all the way to Sheffield. That's a 20-minute drive with lights and sirens.
Is it
Um,
sufficient number of
no,
officers? No.
no, and, you know, um, it's not only responding to calls, but it's also the safety of officers. The safety of officers is also an important piece.
Absolutely. It was very heartbreaking. I saw in the news recently, it was, I believe, in North York or in Toronto, where that police officer attended a call in an apartment building and got shot by a teenager. And I saw in the news where all the police cars they to honor, and it was a young gentleman. So
Yeah,
safety of officers is also a big thing because they put their lives at risk out for, when they go to work every day for the safety, which is a very big concern now.
yeah. So there is technology that we need to use to be more efficient and more effective in terms of policing. Um, getting prompt response from policing is sometimes difficult. Um, so we need to continually work on that.
Yep. And then the second thing, just to clarify, Fred, when you talk about the roads in Ancaster, now you probably read recently Ontario CAA rated Barton Street number one worst road in Canada. Now, you could say it's good or not good that Hamilton is making these headlines, but it's supposed to be the number one city for good things. But being number one for the worst road in on Barton Street is not supposed to, I don't know if people should be proud of it or, well, of course, the obvious answer is no. Um, in
Yeah.
in Ancaster, or in your area, in Ward 12, right, which covers again, uh, Ancaster, rural Ancaster, and West Flamborough. What are some of the things you're seeing with regards to roads? And then taking it a step back, you just mentioned speed bumps. Is more speed bumps a good thing for safety in your Ward 12, Fred? Or just to clarify, or is it too much speed bumps?
So regarding speed bumps, if we look at Sulphur Springs Road, it's an arterial road. There's never been issues on Sulphur Springs Road. Obviously, somebody asked the councillor to put speed bumps there, even though um, there's been no issues there. In the last year alone, there's been at least 4 collisions. You can't see the speed bumps, so the people that know they're there, the speed bumps are so high that you almost have to stop in order to go over them. And then somebody plows in the back of you because they don't know that the speed bump is there. So there's constant collisions that are happening there that are unacceptable. In terms of the roads, so not only do we not fix the roads, but when we fix them, like Jerseyville Road, um, just a little bit of outside of town, they resurfaced it last fall. And all they did was put, a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch asphalt on top of the old road. And if you look at it now, it's already falling apart.
Wow.
Um, so, uh, uh, you know, uh,
It's a fast
if you
repair.
if
They'll have to
if you go
redo
from
that in a few
Wellington,
years.
yeah, if you drive from Wellington County, and you enter into Hamilton, you don't need a welcome to Hamilton sign, because if you're on Kirkwell Road, you know immediately when you're in Hamilton. If you look at Governor's Road, Highway 5, Highway 8, um, you know immediately when you're entering Brant County or somewhere else, because, or worse than that, is coming from West Lincoln on Highway 20. Once you hit Westbrook Road on Highway 20, West Lincoln Road is great, and as soon as you hit Westbrook Road, the road just falls apart, and you think, Aberdeen, uh, the list goes on and on and on. And in terms of Ancaster, I'm not seeing roads getting fixed in Ancaster. There is a lot of work that needs to be done, and instead of wasting money here, there, and everywhere, let's get the roads done. Let's get the sidewalks finished. Um, uh, I,
It,
I I I just think that the city should be doing what the municipality is required to do, and not all kinds of other things that are not municipal responsibilities.
all right. So, Fred, you were saying that, the city has to stop spend spending money elsewhere and really spend the money, get the roads done, get the sidewalks done, and do what municipality is required to do with all these roads and the concerns that, or safety concerns you're also seeing in your Ward 12, Fred. Could you take us, just to resume that conversation?
You know, uh, in a nutshell, Ancaster has the highest levies in the city, um, contributes a lot of money to the city, and residents want to know that they're receiving fair attention, and really a fair investment, um, in return for their property tax, and they don't feel that. Um, it's no different in the rural area, and council introducing the rain tax a year ago is just a prime example of that. Where um, the non-common sense councillors who are always talking about saving the farm wanted to put this rain tax, including the agricultural area, which I just to give you an example, I met with a vertical vegetable grower who has umpteen acres under glass greenhouses, um, growing vegetables. Um, his his water tax alone, not property tax, just water tax, was going to be $130,000.
Wow.
So so first these counselors always talk about saving the farm. Then they turn around and they want to, and I'm not talking about the common sense counselors, I'm talking about the non common sense counselors. Um, and they want a vegetable grower to pay $130,000. What's that going to do to vegetable prices in the store? Obviously, it's going to make them go up. Then the province had to step in and say, sorry, city, you are not doing that to agriculture. You can do it to business, you can do it to homeowners, but you can't do it to agriculture. So that scenario is hurting business big time. And that is not a good sign if we hope to generate revenue from attracting businesses when they could go to Brant County or Brantford and not pay this water tax. So there's a real problem, and some of these counselors, uh, as I've said before, have a very narrow ideology that doesn't doesn't really work in terms of making ends meet for the city.
Yep, it will essentially put the farmers out of business. $130,000 could put them out of business.
Yeah, it's unfair. Um, Not only that, it was sneaky. A lot of people still don't know about it. Then there was a motion put forward to put it off until 2027. It was supposed to be coming into effect in 2026. Um,
They deferred it.
and they deferred it. And uh, the counselors that voted not to defer it, they wanted that money right away. And as uh, those same counselors are the one that say, "Well, we have to get money somewhere. We have to get revenue." Well, that's not the way to do it. That's not the way to uh, run an organization, especially a city.
Yep, they got a lot of backlash, Fred. I was reading comments on this rain tax, and that was not a good idea. And I think the current councillor received a lot of backlash, and because and especially the ones that were in favor. The people spoke, and then they deferred it. I think this year being in 2026 being election year, some of the non-commonsensical counselors. I always say common sense is very uncommon these days, and seems like common sense does not prevail in this council, particularly the ones that are non-commonsensical or very ideological. From what I've seen and read in all these comments, there are so many frustrated Hamiltonians, Fred, and then it seems as though this year the non-commonsensical counselors, as you mentioned, trying to be on good behavior for good PR to get reelected. But I
Yeah.
think it's very interesting this year because a lot of people are voicing, and all the power stands with them because they have the power to vote. And that's, is what is going to make the difference this year. Now, of course, Peter, oh, sorry, Fred, right? Because I know Peter endorsed you, Peter Turkstra. Let's take it a step back, okay? If you want to spend at least 5 minutes to talk a bit about Fred before and then where Fred is today. Okay, so you led Zip Signs Limited, right, for 27 years as owner and president. And, share with us any story starting and growing that company, the challenges and the leadership principles, of course, that help you succeed. Because some of these, is experiences can be transferable to running for councillor today. So share some of those experiences, Fred.
So I was 23 years old, and it was 37 years, not
Wow.
27.
Oh,
So at 23 years old is um, when I got involved and started Zip Signs. Um, I was I was very fortunate. As I say, I had wonderful clients, wonderful staff. Um, I left the business or sold the business when I was 59. Um, I guess I could write a book
oh, wow.
about people. We
I,
did signs across Canada, the U.S., Caribbean. Um, and I guess, somebody said to me the other day, uh, what do you think the counselor's experience is with getting permits and dealing with the planning department? I said, that's a good question. I really have no idea. I can tell you that I had a whole department getting permits and dealing with planning departments for high-rise signs, um, for all kinds of stuff. Probably 10,000 permits that we've taken out over the years. So I'm very familiar with what works and which cities don't work, and Hamilton is one of them. And I think, you know, getting back to my experience at Zip Signs, I think what I would say in a nutshell is that leadership. I had this discussion with one of my volunteers the other day. I said, leadership is about serving. Um, Serving is what's important. Um, and w- we need leadership at the city. Um, we need counselors who are going to not only direct um, the upper levels of management, but to serve them in terms of how they should serve and what our expectations are, and that will flow downstream. It you I I guess who I am is I stopped at the operations department on Shaver Road here in Ancaster because I want to meet the people. I'm the guy who's going to bring coffee and donuts at 5 a.m. on a snowy morning because I want them to do a good job. I'm not just going to send an email and say, how come on this street you didn't do this and this and this? I'll go there at 5 in the morning. I'll bring coffee and donuts. When I had a problem in Regina or Calgary or Edmonton that was above my middle manager's responsibility, I jumped in an airplane the next morning, went out there and dealt with it and was on site at 6 o'clock in the morning again with coffee and donuts. I love coffee and donuts.
Yep,
So,
Dunkin' Donuts coming in Canada later this year. Tim Hortons, watch out.
and, there are many examples about how to serve in leadership, but it's definitely be, people in Word 12 are very unhappy, um, and we need something different. We need uh, we need to focus on the fundamentals of what our responsibility is. We need a stronger review on spending growth, on administration expansion. We just can't keep hiring and hiring and hiring. Project pri- prioritizing prioritizing which projects should be done and when. We also need to distinguish between essential infrastructure and discretionary spending. And third, we need to improve our commercial and industrial base. Um, we have this whole airport expansion area that we've spent tens of millions of dollars bringing a trunk up Centennial and bringing services up to the to this land between Nebo Road all the way to Fiddler's Green. We need to fill the with industry. We need to be attractive for industry and commercial, and then we have to look at where people are going to live because if we're going to attract a company with 500 employees, they need a place to live. And so we're going to have to deal with that as well. So it's an all-encompassing uh, plan that we need, and frankly, I don't see it. And maybe the most important thing, Daniel,
Yep,
that we need to provide as counselors and as leaders in the city is hope. One
absolutely.
thing people one thing people do not have, generally speaking, they don't have hope in Hamilton. They're giving up. I've had several people tell me, "I'm not voting. It's a waste of time. Nothing ever changes. You're not going to do anything." Um, and um, we need to provide hope for people. That is probably the most important thing. And how do you provide hope? With results. Little by little, with results, you give people hope. And they see several roads getting fixed. They'll think, okay, my road must be on the list somewhere too. I'll give the counselor a call. So hope is really the most important thing that a leader can provide to the to their people.
Oh, absolutely. This is certainly a year when we really need change, and that's a very big word because I can tell you people are losing hope in this city,
Yeah.
and they're leaving. And when they leave, the dollars leave, the investments leave. So that's the total opposite of economic prosperity. Now, taking it a step back, Fred, is that the John C. Monroe International Hamilton Airport which you're talking about? In the when the industrial and then followed by residential? Does that fall in
Yes.
your Ward 12?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. But the city, along with the province, designated this whole. They keep changing the name. Airport Expansion Lands, which runs from Nebo Road, south of 20 Road,
Yes.
all the way to Fiddlers. So there is ample room there. We have Canada Bread. We have a few other industries that have located um, in that area, but we have room for hundreds of them. And we need to attract them because 90% of the tax base burden is on residential. And if we look at other municipalities like Burlington next door, um, a lot of their revenue comes from businesses like mine, like Zip Signs was in Burlington, and there's hundreds of companies like Zip Signs in Burlington. There's not enough of those in Hamilton, um, and um, we tinker around the edge a little bit with the Ancaster Industrial Park, which is important. We're starting to do it up at Clapson's Corners, but we've lost really all of Burlington Street. That used to be a huge revenue base for the city, and obviously that's not there anymore. So we're really going to have to think about how we do this. Um, and so people need a place to live if we're going to attract companies. And I think all those things, we have to compete with Brantford. Brantford, you see new buildings going up all the time. And
Yes.
Paris is building 10 or 12,000 new single family homes in Paris. Um, so that's kind of what we're competing with. So we need to face the reality, and we need to do something about it. And we need to get on our horse and start getting some customers.
Yes. And you think, all these things are happening because it really starts at the top. Leadership at council, the decisions that they make on the taxpayers' dollars. As you mentioned, the councillors, they work for the residents. So certainly change has to happen at the top.
Yes, I said that in my delegation too, that, counselors work for the residents. The residents are the ones that put money on the table for them to spend. It's not the other way around. And that is important. That's why I drive the pillars that I do at every door that I see, lower property tax, community safety, and the raid tax and infrastructure that works.
Mhm.
Those are just simple municipal requirements that need to be done, and we get caught up in all these other things and all these other priorities that the non-common sense councilors have and our mayor has, and it's not going to work. It hasn't worked. We're in worse shape now than we were 4 years ago, and
Mhm.
we've had this 23% tax increase in the last 4 years. Um, uh, uh, I'm hearing another 10% increase in 2027. It's not
Yes.
sustainable.
Mhm.
It's not sustainable. We're
Mhm.
losing our young families. They're moving. They're going to Hagersville, Cayuga, Caledonia, wherever. Um, even elderly people. I've gone to a few town hall meetings. One lady stood up and she said, "We still have a mortgage. We're paying $1,000 a month on our mortgage, and now we're paying $1,000 a month for our property tax, and it's just not sustainable, and it's not fair. We have a fiduciary responsibility to those folks. We have to be fair to those people, and we're not being fair to them."
Absolutely. Now, Fred, you know, family, faith, community. Yeah, I love those three words. Essentially, what you stand for. And so there's a lot of background, a lot of good things. You mentioned leadership is service, and very powerful. One of my all-time favorite quotes is leadership is not dominance, it is servitude. And you certainly, as part being a family person, faith as well. You in your past, I'm not sure if you currently sit in the local church communities boards. You have been on mental health organizations, Canadian food grain banks, hospital foundations, a lot of these nonprofit, which is all about service, international relief and development organization. What really drives, essentially it's volunteer. What drives that level of commitment? Because what I've learned in nonprofit as I sit on the board of directors of Royal Hampton Yacht Club and nonprofit, organizations when it comes to advocacy. What I really learned is you become a voice for the people, and it's not about you; it's about others, and making that positive difference or impact in other people's lives. You really learn about the people. And of course, government. I spoke with one of my neighbors last week, 69-year-old woman from Hungary. And let's say her name is Margaret. And, what she said is government is to help the people, right? Because when she fled after World War II, it was communism in her country, and coming on this side to Canada, for opportunity, it was what she's seeing today. It kind of reminds her of how it was back then after World War II. And of course, she, this is a person have lived in a household, since the 50s, 60s in Hamilton, the same household. And what she have seen is taxes have increased where government are just taking more money from the people's pocket. But what are you getting in return? She had in 2 years ago, two break and enters in her home. And she has a very beautiful home where her and her unfortunately husband passed away 4 years ago, but they upkept that home so nice. Windows, the one of the most beautiful front yard, gardening, everything, right? So going back, uh, before I lost my trend of thought, these nonprofit that you are doing, what really drives that level of commitment, Fred? So the people, the viewers will know, uh, you know, why you're doing these nonprofit, what it means to you, and how it translates to you running for Ward 12 Councillor today.
Well, I think the only time, and I'll try to say this carefully, there's only value in things when you give it away. So maybe that's wisdom. Maybe that's money. Maybe that's your time. Um, maybe it's your car. Um, maybe it's sharing your home. But it's one thing to have something. What gives people, most people, what gives me greatest pleasure is sharing.
Wow.
I think sharing is the most important thing that we can do. And, I've had people say to me, you have a nice retired life. Um, why, why would you want to, why would you want to do this?
Yeah.
And I say to them, because it's not about me. It's about the people, and it's about serving. And that's that's really what it's all about. If you ask the chief, you ask the police chief about me, um, he'll probably tell you the one thing he remembers about me is reminding him all the time that people don't work for money. Money is not why people get up, put their shoes on, and go to work in the morning. Um, yeah, we need money. We need money to pay the bills and put food on the table, but it's not what motivates people. It's 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 being successful. It's having people say thank you. It's being honored for the work that you do. That's why people go to work in the morning. I don't want to undermine the value of money, the value of getting paid fairly, but that's not why people go to work. And I'm sure that's what the chief would say about me.
Wow. No, that's a very, very powerful Fred, and it's a good way to put it. And the chief police, I believe, is going to Niagara Falls.
No, that's the deputy Paul Hamilton,
Okay.
who's uh, who's retired and now working for the Niagara, um, what's it called? The Niagara Commission.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, the whatever it's called in Niagara Falls, not the Niagara Falls Police, but um, can't think of the word. But
Yep.
yeah, that's Paul Hamilton. The chief, Frank Bergen, is still employed until I think his contract runs out in a year or so.
Yep. And going back, because I have heard many positive things about you, Fred. And for the viewers out there, I've never met Fred, right? So this is not an endorsement of Fred. I have to be very nonpartisan and neutral. Um, on your website, Fred, Bennink.ca, there's lots of good things, and all of some of these information videos that you posted, I've been to the website and I was amazed with your background. And there were endorsements. The first I saw, the Mancinelli family, Leona, said, Fred Bennink for Ward 12 Councillor. Fred is experienced, capable, and determined. He is committed to improving our city and will serve not only the citizens of Ancaster, but all Hamiltonians with integrity, commitment, and strength. And then also, long time former councillor Lloyd Ferguson for 16 years, Ward 12 Ancaster, endorsed and said, I enthusiastically endorse Fred Bennink as a councillor, as a candidate for City of Hampton councillor representing Ward 12, Ancaster and West Flamborough. He is a proven business leader, a former member of the board of Hamilton Police Services, and a volunteer in our community. He has a good grasp on the issues the public support in Ancaster. And of course, to please join me in supporting Fred in the upcoming municipal election. And last but not least, Peter Turkshaw, who I interviewed of Turkshaw Lumber. We need change, and Fred Bennink is a person with integrity who also understands the need for financial discipline. Hamilton has been led by certain councillors who have their own dogma and have not focused on the needs of the ratepayers. This must change, and Fred will be a great addition to council. When you hear those words of endorsement, Fred, how do you feel? And of course, I know you have utmost gratitude when you hear those pleasant words. What goes through your mind?
Yeah, it's very humbling, for sure. My wife and I are children of Dutch immigrants. Um, you know, we didn't grow up with a lot, so I do find it very humbling.
Absolutely. And also, Fred, I read that you also had political experience where you were claimed as the Ontario PC candidate for Hamilton. West Ancaster done that in 2021. I didn't know. But what did you learn from that experience?
Good question.
Yep. There's a lot
I
of
think
things I didn't know, Fred. You're retired in 2019. I didn't know you were retired. But you certainly have a lot of experience, and I only learn these things when I'm meeting you, well, online for the first time and listening to your stories, but also the viewers. So, what did you learn from that experience when you were claimed as the Ontario PC candidate for Hamilton in 2021?
I learned that I wasn't suitable for provincial government. Obviously, Sandy Shaw is probably a better person to be serving our community than me. I think, in hindsight, I think I'm much better suited to serve municipally, and I think the issues are very manageable. and I love dealing with people. I love helping people, and my office will always be available. Phone calls, and I hear this all the time. Phone calls, emails, they don't get responded to. Um, I have a 24-hour business rule. You call on Friday, you'll get a response on Monday. You call on Monday, you'll get a response on Tuesday. But 24-hour business rule to respond to people. And really, again, it's about serving. It's about serving people. People, the question that they have is very important to them. They need a blue box. That's very important to them. So throw it in my car and go deliver it and have a nice conversation at the same time. So you might not think it's important, but it's important to them, which is why they're calling you or why they're emailing you. So, and it's the same in business. You can't discount the importance of what somebody is asking you. Um, so again, I think it's really important to show people that they are important because they are important, and they're the ones that are paying the freight.
Oh, absolutely. Um, Absolutely. And one question that came to my mind, Fred, is what is the difference between running for provincial and municipal? Municipal, again, you're more, connected with the people. How different is it running for, or what's the difference between provincial and municipal?
Well, provincial, you're tied to the leader. I think my sense is that provincially, people tend to vote more for the party or the leader
Mm,
than they are for the individual. Obviously, the system was designed to vote for the person, but I think whether it's provincial or federal, people are often voting for the leader. And I think municipal, when I look at Ward 12, I'm the only one running in Ward 12. There's nobody else running. So I'm not running against, I'm not, I don't have a leader that I'm carrying with me that I have to answer for. It's just me. So nobody else has filed to run so far.
right.
I, I'm sure the incumbent will run,
Yep.
but uh, I don't know. I don't know why, but he hasn't filed yet.
Yes. And I think, Fred, your dedication and your commitment certainly has shown. Every weekend you're doing door knocking. Over 8,000 doors you reached, and I believe you said 10 or 12,000 in total in Ward 12. So you are definitely more than halfway there, and and really showing yourself, caring for, all these, residents in that ward. It takes a lot of dedication, Fred. And one of the things, given that you have lived in that in Ancaster for decades, and you heard from all of these residents some stories which you shared earlier, right? Residents in Ancaster and rural Flamborough. What really convinced you it's time for change, or what was that moment that made you think, I need to step up and run for council? It's sort of two questions together. But of course, um, you know, yes, you mentioned earlier, all of these concerns were getting really out of hand. That led to that decision for you to run. But what really convinced you from speaking with the residents that it's time for change?
I think the conditions at City Hall, and when I looked at the core of Ancaster, so we've been in Ancaster for so many years, 35-ish years. Now we live in the core, and we walk everywhere. And when it was one day, I was going down Wilson Street, and thinking, this isn't Ancaster. We've got a gas station that's been closed with a fence around it and garbage blowing up against it. On the other corner of Wilson and Fiddlers, we've got a quasi park with weeds that are 3, 4 feet high. Then I go down the street and there's a fence along a vacant lot that, I don't know, looks awful. We got a boarded up building downtown that apparently is some heritage designation that's been like that for years. We got burnt out buildings across the street. Um, we've got flower boxes that are embarrassing. Um, and it's just it's and those examples that I'm giving you are such low hanging fruit. If I get if I get elected, that's like 2 weeks worth of work. Just get all that cleaned up and do this and do that and make it look presentable. And that's the low hanging fruit. The larger issue is the revenue problems, um, driving revenue, um, getting staff to understand what should happen. People applying for permits, respond to them, respond to emails. Um, you know, really bring some sense of pride to your job as a civil servant.
Now, Fred, all of these issues that you just mentioned, to the normal person, they would say, if a road needs to be fixed, it should be easy. Someone should come and just get it fixed. But then some road issues can sit there for a long time or even years. Do you really think it is it's all about fiscal management or mismanagement? Because the city seems to have a budget. They receives about 2 point something billion every year. Their revenue tools are only, the top three that I can think of: property taxes. There is the municipal charges, like when it comes to like parking tickets and that stuff. And then there is also development charges, where recently there was a posting I saw from Rob Cooper where they have 600 million sitting in reserves or received from development charges. And how are they really using it? Because to hold 600 million, they're not a bank. So is it fiscal mismanagement or not smart decisions being made or being very proactive to get these roads fixed? Why are these problems still? And it's like you said, the low hanging fruits. These problems should be resolved, very quickly, because every day the residents, they have to drive on these roads. Why do you think these problems are still ongoing and they sit for a very long time being unresolved?
Yeah, the essence of my campaign is honest leadership and clear priorities. And in terms of the clear priorities, um, it, it's 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 out of whack. There's been no financial statement since 2022. Um, so the budget is done by the mayor, along with the chair of the budget committee, which is Maureen Wilson, and the co-chair of the budget committee, which is Craig Kassar. The three of them allegedly put the budget together. So I don't know how anybody could do a financial budget for their house if they have no idea of what they've spent for the last 4 years. Um, um, and apparently it's all because of the cyber attack. But I can tell you that if my business had a cyber attack, um, we'd get out a pen and paper and we'd start figuring out what the financial statement would look like. Would it be perfect? No, but it would be workable, and we would make business decisions based on that. Nobody can even tell me what the reserve funds are, or if there are reserve funds, or where the money is. We all know about Barton and Tiffany and what a disgusting situation that's so unacceptable. And then what we hear from our counselor is, well, it's a learning process. No, it's not a learning process. Like it's it's totally unacceptable. Look at the new bus barn on Birch Street, $250 million budget. They're at 400 million already because they had HVAC problems. Well, when I look at how many people looked at the HVAC, from the architect getting a mechanical engineer And all the way through that system of planning and building and contracting and putting it out to bid, how many people must have looked at that HVAC system? It is impossible for me to believe that nobody picked that up, that there's an HVAC problem with those drawings. And if there
Incompetency.
is, it's incompetence, you know. And the list goes. Southcote Road here in Ancaster was redone. $8 million budget. They spent 16 million. Garner Road, what a disaster. Now I'll guarantee you that right now it's being done on time and material. And our councillor said they're going to be out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, they're not there more than 5 days a week. And every time I drive by, there's 8 guys standing there, and one guy looking in the hole, and nobody doing anything. So it it is so unacceptable. We got a procurement problem. That's it's it's a serious issue that we need to look at. So yeah, there's a host of problems, but Daniel, they are manageable problems, and I want to express to people that I want them to have hope. We can fix this. We can fix the city, and we can do it together.
Yep,
We need honesty and we need integrity um, in order to do that.
absolutely. And, really, really thinking forward, vision for better governance in this city of Hamilton. Um, really, for the viewers out there, Fred, paint a picture of what smarter spending and fiscal responsibility would look like at City Hall under better leadership. What does that look like? We have from October 2026, I believe November 12th is when the councillors the new ones, or will take that position, I believe November 12th. How paint that picture, smarter spending, fiscal responsibility would look like at City Hall under better leadership, which is absolutely needed.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And that starts at the top and it has to start immediately. And one of the things that makes me a little nervous is the 2027 budget. So right now we approve the budget in February or March or whenever we get around to it. Like that budget should be done in November for the following year. Um, our police budget was done in October for the following year all the time. Um, we need to have that budget done earlier, and we need to turn over every penny. And for the common sense, in defense of the common sense counselors, I will say that they don't get a crack at the budget. They don't really. They can tinker around the edges, but they don't get a say in the in what happens. And so there's a lot of things that I'm very concerned about.
Quick ask from me, Daniel Chin. If you are enjoying the Chin podcast, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. Our mission is simple: to inform, inspire, and advance economic prosperity right here in Hamilton through honest conversations about business, policy, and real estate. Subscribing helps us grow, bring on better guests, and deliver even stronger episodes for you. Thank you, and let's build this together.
I think the most important thing that people want to know is they want transparency, full transparency and accountability. Those are really two things that, as a result of those two things, the normal course of doing what a municipality is supposed to do will come out of that. We should not be doing things that are not municipal responsibilities. You know, the last time I was out on the street with a staff sergeant, we talked to 23 different homeless people. 18 of them were not from Hamilton. Those people are not our responsibility. We need to treat the homeless, you know, with compassion. We also have to have expectations, and we have to have order. The city cannot get sued by the hotels where they're staying at for damage to the building, laying out on the street, interfering with business in the core. Um, we need to do a better job. $175 million a year on housing and homelessness. I guess I'm jumping around a little bit, but let me say that there was a business plan written that every municipality in Ontario should be required to provide a certain number of beds along with the social services that go along with it. So Hamilton would have, I don't know, pick a number, 200 beds. Burlington would be responsible to have 150 beds. Oakville, 150 beds. Fort Erie, 15 beds. Port Colborne, 10 beds. But every municipality would be required to have a certain number of beds. Those people that I talked to, well, the one gentleman is from Peterborough. All his family's in Peterborough. It's not, we have to understand that's where the person would rather be. He'd rather be in Peterborough because his family is there. He can't afford to commute from Hamilton to Peterborough to see his family. So much of that impacts on our budget, and we don't have enough transparency and or accountability with how we deal with all of these issues, whatever it is, whether it's the vacant unit tax, whether it's the climate office. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. We can't be everything to everybody. We are not the federal government. We are not the provincial government. We're a municipal government of a small city named Hamilton. Yes, the fifth largest city in Ontario, but we can't. My taxpayers in Linden cannot be responsible for what happens downtown, and they don't want to be responsible. They want to be part of the solution, but they have expectations for how their money should be spent in Linden or in Jerseyville or Troy as well. So those are really important things, and we have to give people a sense that we're being successful. And what does successful look like? Successful is achieving what my expectations are. So we need to share those expectations with the people. Then we need to meet those expectations. And that will drive hope. And once people have hope, then we'll be on to a better path. Does that
Wow.
make sense?
Wow, Fred, that you basically summarized everything as I was listening, and I'm thinking, you're right, $2 million spent in hotel damages where the city spent housing homeless people in the COVID years, right? Your residents you mentioned in Linden, Jerseyville, they're also affected where they have higher taxes, and some stem from, issues in other wards in the city. And in those areas, Linden, Jerseyville, they're wondering why are they paying more, and services are less in some respects. And, and all these other issues that cause increase in cost for the homeowner. Throughout the entire city. It really is, very, very well said. And it's all about really fiscal management on taxpayers' money. And of course, from all your board and business experience, what long-term thinking on infrastructure and core services is missing in current discussions, would you say, Fred?
So uh, I was thinking the other day, the city council is having this discussion about area rating, and um, this idea that people in Sheffield, maybe they should pay the same amount for HSR in their property tax as people that live in the core of Hamilton. Right now, people that use the bus, communities that use the bus, pay more than people who don't even have bus service, out in the country. But, there was this discussion amongst the subcommittee that maybe what we should do is everybody should pay the same, because if people in Sheffield and Linden pay $450 a year in their property tax for the buses, then the people who live in the core would only have to pay $450 as well, so that everybody would pay the same amount. Well, doesn't that sound wonderful? But it's just as dumb as can be. Why would people who don't even know what color the bus looks like, why should they be responsible to pay for bus use? Um, so, I mean, maybe it's a crazy example, but that discussion actually occurred. Um, and so I guess to answer your question is there needs to be fairness. There needs to be fairness. And going back to the rain tax again, we have a drainage act. We have a provincial drainage act, which controls and legislates and regulates water flow in the country. That's what the farmers live by. And if something has to be done, they have to pay to fix the water flow. And sometimes it's a significant amount of money to fix it. The road budget includes things like fixing or servicing the ditches. And so, yeah, let's just put a rain tax on there. And clearly that is just double dipping. So fairness, the most important thing that people expect is fairness. And that's where we need to honor that with honest leadership.
And you also mentioned, Fred, vacant unit tax. There was an article in the Hamilton Spectator yesterday where basically the city is inaccurately reporting that they're receiving 8.3 million revenues from the vacant unit tax program, and which is inaccurate. We have Councillor Matt Francis said this vacant unit tax is predatory reverse billing, right? So meaning we're gonna send you the bill unless you declare or opt out, right? That your property is vacant. And then we have Mike Spadafore saying, well, it's not 8.3 million. It's really 5 million received before expenses, and when you minus 2 million expenses, it's really net revenue 3 million that the city receives. So it's inaccurate reporting. And lastly, Councillor Ted McMeekan said it's unfair when you have homeowners pay $500 late penalty fee, right? Even when homes are afterwards deemed occupied, then the city still keeps the $500 late penalty fee. It's unfair. So that has to be looked at right now. Soon with what's going on with the vacant unit tax. It is predatory reverse billing, as you mentioned. Now, moving on, what does true resident first customer service at the municipal level look like day to day? That is a big one. Customer service, resident first customer service. As you mentioned, it's all about the people.
So I can't tell you how many doors I knocked on where people have said, I've tried to get a hold of the counselor. I don't get a return call. I go to the office is dark because they're working from home or they turn the lights off and lock the door. I don't know what. But customer service, return people's calls, return people's emails. As I said earlier, if somebody has contacted the counselor's office, it's important to them. Maybe they want a blue box and they don't know where to get one, or whatever the situation is. It's important to them, so it needs to be important to you as a counselor or to your staff. And people need to be treated with that sense of respect. There will be things that you can't do anything about, but then you can at least point them in the right direction. But it's really respecting the taxpayer. This is not some sort of a golden goose. These are hardworking people, and we cannot afford for property taxes to go up anymore. Like, we have to figure out a way how to do a better job. This experiment that we've been under in the last 4 years with these counselors hasn't worked. It doesn't work. There's no more money. I'll remind you what Margaret Thatcher said. The problem with socialists is eventually they run out of other people's money. And I guess the fact is we're there. We're there. So there's there's no more money. So we better fix the roads, and we better do it properly, and we better do it once so it lasts for 40 years. Um, and give people what they want. I don't
Wow.
understand how difficult that is.
Wow. Well, very well said. I'm gonna put that quote from Margaret Thatcher. She's, I believe, a politician from England, and was
Yes.
very, very famous for her time and works in her position. So Fred, looking ahead, what's your bold but practical vision for Ward 12 in 5 to 10 years? Of course, councillor terms are every 4 years. What's your bold but practical vision for Ward 12 in 5 to 10 years? So you mentioned build roads that work, lower property taxes, reduce crime, serving residents or customer service. Some of the things that I've seen on your website. But looking ahead, what's your bold but practical vision for Ward 12 in 5 to 10 years or 4 to 8 years?
Well, let me start by saying I'm not doing this because I'm looking for a job. I'm not doing this because I want to be a politician. Um, I'm not doing this because I want to make somebody, uh, get decisions made that's going to make somebody happy. I'm doing this because I believe it's the right thing to do. I'm doing it because I feel like it's a calling, that I have the opportunity, that I have the time, um, and I feel like I have the expertise in order to deal with deal with these things. So, um, based on that, I have the freedom of making decisions that are best for the community, and whether that gets me reelected 4 years from now, I I don't really care. I will make decisions that are best for the community. And I will engage people, and I will work with people, and I would build consensus with people. And that way, we can do things together. So, what does that look like in a number of years? Well, first of all, we're going to have a core that's workable. We're going to have retail stores in the core, along with places to live. Um, our counselor just approved a 8-story building in Ancaster um, where we had a height restriction of 3.5 stories for you know a lot of years. That is no longer going to be the case. I find it sad, but it's the reality. So we got to work with that, and we have to improve the core. We have to look at bike lanes and um, how that experiment has gone. We now have full-time crews, by the way, replacing those bollards on the side of the road along the. I talked to a gentleman the other day who's got a pickup truck full of them because they keep on being knocked down, and he picks them up all the time. Like, that's got to end. I'll take that money and start fixing streets with it. So um, I see a community that people feel safe, and I guess that's what we will use as a measuring stick. Are people feeling safe? And is it affordable? Is there jobs? Is this a place in Ancaster where our youth can afford to buy a home here and they can raise their family here, like many of us have done? And we need to make that opportunity available for them. Otherwise, it's not going to be affordable.
Very well said, Fred. And I already also described your character and what you stand for already. Remember, Fred Bennink, family, faith, community. And you touched on a lot of very powerful things. I've certainly learned a lot, about you, Fred, today. And what's your final message to Ward 12 voters who are tired of the status quo?
I will always be able to be in touch with you. I will always be available. I will build infrastructure that works. I will supervise how things get done. Um, I won't micromanage, but I will instruct and lead appropriately. We have to lower property tax. Some people just laugh at me when I say that. It is possible. We got to get things under control. The status quo is not acceptable. We will do things differently, providing we change a few councillors and the mayor. And we have to end this upcoming rain tax. Um, I can provide those things. I will work with those things. I understand policing, and we will provide community safety that works in Ancaster.
Very well said, Fred. And I think in all of your emails, in the signature line, there is clear priorities and transparency, I believe, or something with leadership.
Honest leadership. Honest leadership.
Honest leadership. It's
Clear priorities.
clear
Yeah.
priorities, honest leadership. Brilliant. And of course, how can listeners get involved? Get us yard sign. I saw, want a yard sign in your website, or volunteer with your campaign.
My phone number is on the website. My email address is on the website. I have a wonderful team, just great volunteers. So yeah, I'd love to have more people be engaged, and I would welcome anybody that's interested to get a hold of me so I can direct you to our volunteer coordinator or talk to you myself. I will always be available.
Yep. And the website is Bennink, BENNINK.ca. And Fred's email is fred@bennink.ca. And your number is on your website, right? Just so you don't get lots of spam, Fred, if I say it out loud in this interview here. Now, Fred, your desire is to inspire hope in our community. Fred, what gives you hope for Hamilton's future?
Well, I'm very inspired by some of the counselors that we do have. I've met with the counselors. Some of the counselors that we have, I find very inspiring, and I'm super excited to be able to work with them. And some of the new people that are running. I want people to know there's some really good people out there who are really passionate about getting Hamilton back on track. And that really gives me hope, because there's nothing better than being on a team of winners. And I want people to know there are people out there who really care. And I really look forward to working with them. Some of them are existing counselors, and some of them are running. So it could be a lot of fun. And if we don't do it, I hate to think of what the consequences will be. So let's fix Hamilton. We can't have police defunders on the police board. What sense does that make? It's crazy. We can't overtly penalize our agricultural sector. We can't say you can only build houses in the infill area when the infill area doesn't have enough capacity for sewage or for water or for whatever. Not in all instances, but we make these blanket statements, and somehow that's the narrative. Let's not be a city to say no to everything. Let's be a city of hope for people. And I think when we protect the environment, we protect all Hamiltonians. And I think in terms of the environment is the best way to look at it. Protecting the environment protects all of us. And so I do have a lot of hope in Hamilton. It's a place where we can really get excited. And I'd love to be a part of that.
Wow, Fred, you have so much wisdom. I am so impressed. And Fred speaks from the heart for all the viewers out there. Viewers in Hamilton and beyond Hamilton who is listening to this podcast interview. And Fred is not a politician. He is retired as of 2019. He's a family person, and he's running for Ward 12 councillor because he feels in his heart and strongly believes it is the right thing to do. I'm very impressed, Fred. And these answers are not, rehearsed or scripted.
No.
It is brilliant. And for the viewers again, okay, Ward 12 in Hamilton. We have the historic village core and established neighborhoods of Ancaster, as well as rural settlements of Copetown, Sheffield, Lyndon, and Jerseyville, right? So essentially, it encompasses the urban area of Ancaster and extends deeply into the rural landscape of West Flamborough, right? And the geographic borders, right, it clearly defines by the former town of Dundas and Highway 8 to the north, the former municipal boundary to the west, Sawmill Road, the city limits, to the south, and Glanbrook Road to the east. Is that correct, Fred?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yep. So all the residents, and do you know the population in total of that entire area?
42,000 approximately.
42,000. Yep. So we want to make sure we capture all of the residents there for when it comes time to voting on October 26, 2026. Now the last segment, Fred, because we had some, let's say, technical issues before, these questions may be a repeat, or it just may be, a one sort of line summary, right, of some of the things we touched on earlier. And this would be easy for you because you speak, very clearly and simply, so viewers will understand. What's the one thing most people misunderstand about municipal government?
Municipal government has the biggest impact on your day-to-day life. Essentially, that's it. There are so many things that affect your day-to-day life, even commuting. So roads, garbage pickup, parks, cutting the grass for your kids, soccer games, and so on. Yeah, municipal government has the biggest impact on your day-to-day life. 42,000 people, and 4 years ago, only 11,000 voted. It's sad. It's sad. I'm trying to encourage people to actually vote. Get out and vote. Don't give up hope, but vote. And hopefully folks will vote come October.
And just to clarify, Fred, you said 11 years ago, only 40% of people voted?
Oh, sorry. 4 years ago,
Oh,
only 4 years ago, only 11,000 people voted.
only 11,000 in total in Ward 12 or the whole of City of Hamilton?
No, in Ward 12, of the 42,000 population, only 11,000 voted.
Wow, so that's roughly 25%.
Yeah, I think it's something like that, 28% or something.
Mm.
We need to vote. People need to vote, and whether you vote for me or whether you vote for the incumbent, please vote.
Yep.
Please get out and vote.
Absolutely.
Don't give up. Don't give up hope. We have the privilege in this country to vote, and we need to take advantage of that.
Yeah. And if you could fix one broken process at City Hall overnight, what would it be?
The homeless and housing issue is by far the most troubling issue that needs to be fixed, and that's the one that I would fix overnight. We have a lot of wisdom and a lot of expertise in this area, And we need to leverage that expertise to deal with that. And we need to deal with it in a compassionate way, number one. And number two, we need to lay out expectations um, for these folks, and we need to do it kindly. But that's one thing that's probably the most important thing from a city perspective um, that that needs to be fixed immediately.
Okay, Fred. Advice for young people or new residents wanting to get involved in local politics.
Yeah, I think it's important. It's important for folks to understand what's happening in our city and what our councilors doing, um, how they can affect change, what difference they can make, and maybe it's through a volunteer in a local organization um, where you have an impact. So even things like getting involved in the kids in the dance club or in hockey or soccer or, uh, any kind of organization will affect municipal government because there is an impact, whether it's in terms of funding the organization or whether it's the cost of ice time for hockey, or whether it's cutting the grass at the municipal parks. So all of those things are at the ground level really important way to get involved in municipal politics. There's also so many committees and so many lay people that get appointed to boards that are controlled by the city where there's an opportunity there. So uh, for older folks who have the time, apply for those positions. Maybe it's a committee of adjustment, or I don't know. I think there's like 100 board positions that are available in the city. And for younger people, maybe, as I said earlier, maybe it's sports or some other way to get involved. You can also get involved with campaigns. I have some young people volunteering for me in my campaign. Um, my job is, yes, to win, but more importantly, it's to bring these folks along, bring these young people, provide mentorship to them, encourage them, and give them hope that maybe they can do the same thing in the future.
That's the best answer I've heard, Fred, to encourage the young people to get involved.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know there were so many positions and so many ways that you can get involved.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. How do you balance being accessible to residents while dealing with big citywide issues?
You know, um, I had big issues in my company, and I had middle managers who could deal with them, but there was always time for me to walk through the factory, to call vendors, to go visit vendors, to see customers. There's always time. You just have to prioritize. So, as I said earlier, maybe the blue box is a good example. I'm not going to ask a staff member to go deliver a blue box. They got more important things to do. But I will deliver the blue box because it's important. There's always time. If you want something done, ask a busy person, and they'll figure out how to get it done. So um, delegating is very important, but also being visible. Um, I won't be the guy writing long-winded newsletters, but I'll always be available. Um, and don't send me long-winded emails because I won't get through them all. But I will respond to people and I will talk to them, and I'll do it forthwith.
Yes, and he is literally meaning forthwith. I sent Fred an email. He will get back to you. And as Fred mentioned earlier, he has a 24-hour business rule. You send him an email on the Friday, he'll get back to you on the Monday. You send him an email on the Monday, he'll get back to you on Tuesday by end of Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
But very, very responsive. So that's a very good thing because customer service is, is everything, at especially at City Hall. Um, Thoughts on development charges and their impact on housing affordability.
So, the housing piece is a very difficult piece that needs to be dealt with. I was reading an article the other day and this is I, I don't want to play the blame game, but all three levels of government, I think, are coming to terms with what should be done. So I compliment them for that. But 30% of what you pay for your house is going to government in some way, shape, or form. Either it's a development charge or it's sales tax on the faucets that you buy or whatever. But 30% is an awful lot of money that goes to government, as if new homes are some sort of cash cow for the government. Like, that should not be the motivation for building new homes. We need affordability, and whether that's a studio apartment or whether it's a 5-bedroom home, that all of the impacts will affect affordability for housing. So right now, we have a serious housing shortage, but because we have the shortage, it exacerbates the affordability. And I think that's what maybe some of the councillors don't understand, that by saying no to everything, um, they really are exacerbating the affordability piece. So again, it's a holistic picture that needs to be done. I'm glad that the, in terms of the development charges, I don't know where this money is. I don't know where the reserve funds are. I don't know if there's 600 million sitting in a bank account somewhere. Um, if there is, let's go fix some roads with it. Um, it's not really fair for people to pay development charges for something, and then the person who's living in a 50-year-old subdivision, that's where the money is going to go, because that's all of a sudden what's needed right now. That doesn't make any sense. So there doesn't seem to be rhyme or reason to how the development charges are being spent. Um, and there's no black and white issue, but a lot of these things are in the gray area. But we need more accountability and more transparency. That is absolutely for sure. And we're not getting it. We don't know what the numbers are.
And there was an article 2 or 3 days ago. We were graded an F for accountability, right, by the CD Howe Institute, for our which rates how our financial statements for the people who read, giving out those financial statements so people can get that information. We were graded an F in transparency and accountability. But very well said, Fred. We will only know that information when we see those fully audited statements, financial statements, hopefully in 2027. As I heard it, we are not going to see it towards the end of this year.
Yeah.
A funny or memorable story from your time on the police board?
Oh, I got lots of them.
One.
um, the one thing that I will remember is um, my relationship with fellow board members, especially with Pat Mandy. Pat Mandy, for most of the time, was the chair, and I was the vice chair, and she always called me her wingman. Um, I was the one who had to get everything done, and Pat was the wisdom and governance. I've never met anybody who knows as much about governance as Pat Mandy. Um, she was the former vice president of Hamilton Health Sciences, whatever her position was. Um, she definitely has forgotten more about governance than I know, and it was such an honor to serve with her. Plus, we had a lot of fun together, so that was great. It's always that team thing. There was Jordy Elms. There was all kinds of board members, Fred Eisenberger. You know, I can't think of them all right now, but uh, just very enjoyable. And you gotta have fun. You know, if you don't have fun, it's not worth doing. So whether it's in your job or whether it's volunteering or whatever, you got to have fun. People love to laugh, and we don't laugh enough. So
Absolutely, Fred. What role should councillors play in provincial or municipal relations?
well, that's a good question. I think the thing we learn when we're young is we praise in public and we criticize in private. And I think criticizing upper levels of government in public is not healthy and not helpful. Um, if if we want to criticize upper levels of government, whether they're MPs or MPPs, we do it quietly. We meet with them, we tell them how disappointed we are, and we tell them to get it fixed. But we don't do it publicly. We don't do it in council meetings. We praise people in public, and I think that's the most important thing. You praise in public and you criticize in private.
Wow, very powerful wisdom, Fred. I love it. How important is rural voice in Ward 12?
You know, for people that have not driven through Ward 12, I would encourage anybody, whether you live in Stony Creek or any part of the city, it's beautiful. It is you go in these areas all the way out to Sheffield, and the volunteers that are stuffing mailboxes and knocking on doors out there, they're having the time of their life. They say that they've never seen places that are so pretty and on these little side roads, and people are so friendly, and there's beautiful stores out there. There's a flower acres. There's a place where you can get homemade goods. We have meat, organic store. There's all kinds of stuff. I'd really encourage you, if you have nothing to do on a Saturday or Sunday, go for a drive in Ward 12. It's a big area, but it is so pretty. Yeah.
It is, well, lots of trees.
Oh,
The air smells differently compared to by the Fasco.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Personal habit or book that shaped your leadership.
Well, I want to honor my mentor, who is Bill Vortman Cookies. So my factory was right beside Vortman Cookies, with the Appleby overpass in between Vortman Cookies and Zip Signs. But the two brothers, Bill and Harry, but Bill and I would meet regularly, and he really mentored me for many years. He has since passed. Um, Very successful business, did very well. And his goal was, and he was public about it, was to die penniless,
Wow.
wow, to give it all away. Just beautiful man. Um, so I want to honor Bill, because Bill was really my mentor and my guide. Yeah, fabulous, great
Wow.
man.
I believe Wortman cookies, they sold the business. Did they sold?
Yeah,
Yep. And
yeah,
it was 700,000 cookies every year.
yeah. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know how many.
yep. It's a private equity company, I believe, owns it
Yeah,
now. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
I didn't know that, Fred. You were right next to Wortman. I would see it every
yeah,
time I drive by the highway.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Message to first-time voters in this election.
You know, I've run into a lot of 18-year-old and 19-year-olds in my door knocking, and it's really fun to talk to them, and they've never voted before, and they ask a lot of questions about what it's like, and I explain it to them and just really encourage them go vote. It's super easy. Just show up at the polling station, and there will be somebody there to look after you. But please try it. Uh, you know, uh, the one young man I was talking to, I was standing with his dad, and his dad was about my age, and I said uh, to the kid, he was 18 or 19. I said, wouldn't it be nice that when you get to be our age, that you can say that you voted in at all three levels for every election, from when you were whatever age you are now until you get to be our age. That would be a real accomplishment and it'd be a real challenge. So I try to challenge young people to ensure that they vote. And I say, yes, I'd like you to vote for me, but I'd like you just to vote, even if you vote for somebody other than me. It's really important that we exercise that franchise.
Wow. Fred, you are a very, very humble person. Sincere, again, truly represent of everything you said in this interview today. Family, faith, and community, and really a servant. As you said, council works for the residents, and I can see all of those qualities as I listened, to your words of wisdom today, and certainly learned a lot about you. And I didn't even know you retired as of 2019, and really, really cares about the people. And like you said, it's not because you need a job. You're not a politician. You are, trying to do the right thing and inspire hope, right,
Yeah.
in our community. And that's a beautiful thing that you're doing, Fred. Any last words you want to say to all of you was out there about Fred or anything?
No, I think everybody has a purpose. There is a purpose for everybody, and you need to utilize that and um, find a place where you can serve people, serve your neighbor, your family, whoever, but live a life of service.
Wow. Again, another powerful. These quotes, I will have to write it down. Live a life of service. Fred, thank you so much for your time. I will ensure this entire episode is, of course, very smooth from beginning to end. Thank you so much for your time and do remain on an extra minute or two. Thank you so much for being on the Gen podcast, Fred.
Thank you, sir.
Fred, thank you for this rich and honest conversation. What stays with me is your deep belief that leadership is service, that real change comes not from grand ideology, but from showing up, listening, fixing what's broken, and giving people hope. From the stories of your business journey and the time on the police board to your clear vision of safer streets, better roads, responsible spending, and truly responsive local government, it's clear you approach this work with humility, experience, and a genuine love for this community. To our listeners in Ward 12 and across Hamilton, I encourage you to reflect on what kind of leadership you want. Visit Bennink.ca to learn more, get involved, and request a yard sign. Thank you for listening. If this conversation moved you or gave you something to think about, please share it. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep building the community you want to live in. This has been the Chin Podcast. I'm Daniel Chin.